We're going to be going through the complete beginner's guide, how to get started with FlutterFlow. You're going to be learning how to approach building your app with FlutterFlow. We're going to go through the three key concepts of building your app in FlutterFlow. I'm even going to break down a project that I built for a friend of mine where we created a wine app and breaking down all the different pages, how we did it, all of those things. So if you're interested in this, or creating your very first app in FlutterFlow, this is the right place for you. In the comment section down below, let me know if you're trying this for a first time, you're switching from Bubble, you're switching from Adalo, or just trying to gain an extra skill. Let me know why you're interested in this, and we're going to get started. There's going to be time codes, actually time, markers in the comment description as well. And if you want to support the stream, take a look. You can always make sure you can get the FlutterFlow for beginners or Doc's help desk as well. So get right into this. Hey, first of all, we got some people in the crowd. One Media, always good to see you. Yeah, man, this is why we got this for you. So thanks so much for being out here, J Law. So we're going to get right into this and talk about what FlutterFlow is and build out this app. So if you haven't heard of this, FlutterFlow is a platform where you can create applications very quickly. You can create mobile applications, but also web apps as well. Now, as we go through this edition, we're going to be talking about how you're going to be formatting and building out your app. So let's just get right into this and start this thing for you. Okay. So again, FlutterFlow for beginners, let's talk about this. You have to identify, first of all, what type of app are you building? That's important because there are so many different types of platforms out there, and people are asking, can I create a dating app? Can I create the next TikTok? It's important that you first write down what type of app that you're going to try to create. The second point is why. And this is really important because if you go into the market thinking, well, I'm just going to add another app into the App Store, I'll make money off of AdSense or something like that, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. You have to look at how are you going to impact people? What are you going to be solving? What problem are you solving? That's really important. And as you go into that, the next part is what is the main feature of the app that's going to be? Tons of people want to create Instagram, but think about how Instagram first came out. It was to take pictures and share them. That was the first part. Take pictures, edit them mildly, and then share them with people. You've got to think about your app. What is going to be your main feature for your app? Okay. So as we go through this, we're going to go through the three main concepts of building the app. We're going to then go into FlutterFlow and start building from scratch. And then I'm going to be showing you the application that we're going to be going through. So the first one up is looking at the three key concepts of building an app. Well, you're breaking this down into three different areas. And the three areas that you're building your app, let's zoom in right here, would be the back end, front end, and functionality. So the back end has to do how to make the application smart. Without having a database, without having anything on the back end, it's like going into Twitter or into Instagram. Without having a back end, the app wouldn't remember anything about you, wouldn't remember your screen name, your handle, what you like and what you don't like. That's what a backend does. That's what the database does. It makes your application smart. So we have to build that out. We have to tell the system how to structure that kind of data. The front end is what the app looks like. So think about the different aesthetics or what you like about Instagram, TikTok, whatever, the different buttons that you click, the animation, all of those things. That's what it has to deal with the front end. And then the functionality, what you want the app to do. That's important because you have to tell the app as you're building it visually, you've got to tell it to go to a certain page, save certain things, open up your camera, all of those different things. So those are the three concepts of building an app. And if you're just starting from scratch, maybe you haven't heard of a database or a backend or don't know how it works or don't understand relations. That's why it's important just to understand these concepts before we go a little bit deeper. Okay, so now that we have the three concepts of building the app, now we're going to get started with creating an account, getting started, and we're going to do the fundamentals or the basics of going into FlutterFlow before we start building anything. Okay, so we're going to do that. And if anyone wants to know how to go through the 7 steps to build a profitable digital product, including an app, let me know, because there'll be links down below as well. So let's get started. If you're going to just get started from scratch and start for free with FlutterFlow, if you have a Gmail account, that would be perfect, because then we can set up a Firebase account, which will set up your database as well. So you're going to first start for free. And after you start for free and sign up, you're going to log in, and you're going to see a screen like this. This is going to be something similar, only instead of all these projects right here, your projects will just be empty, right? But you'll have the same exact setup. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all of your projects that you're working on, followed by the marketplace, where you can find different templates or custom plugins that you can use for your app. Say, for instance, if you're trying to create a social media network or something like that, you see a template here. If you want to have a certain nav bar, you can have that as well. So you're going to see all of those things down below. Below that, you're going to see my organization, team code, team media assets, all of those different things, team APIs. Just realize that's going to be if you're building out as an agency or building out as a team, you're going to have that kind of stuff as well. So we have the projects right here. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. So if we click on this little button at the top on the right hand side, we'll say create new, and this will allow us to create a new project. Now, there are 2 different ways that you can go about this. You can use a template that would be something that interests you. So you can find something that would be similar, that you can start with a template that will speed up things, or you can start and create it from a blank project. We're just going to do that real quick. We're going to say live test 2, and we're going to create a blank one. All right, so live test 2, the project name right here, it will allow us to get started. Now, if you look at this, it says set up Firebase. Now, this is important because a lot of people struggle with this to just get started with Firebase. So this is a really big struggling point. So we're going to actually do it live for you to see step by step what you're going to be doing. Please, a word of caution. When you're looking at this and you're starting out with Firebase or anything with Google products or any kind of software in general, there are updates. So sometimes when you watch a video, whenever you're watching this, it might look slightly different than what you see, but the principles are all going to be the same. So don't worry if you're trying to log in or something's happening and you're like, it's not working for me. Relax. It's okay. We're going to go through the key concepts, and then you're going to be able to see how you can use this to log in right now. So let's get right into it. We did the project name. We did live test 2. We're going to say next step because it says set up Firebase. It's going to say next step. Now here it says add a Firebase to a project, optional. So let's go set up Firebase for the very first time. So what you're going to do is go to firebase.google.com. And this is where I was saying this really helps if you have a Google account, because you can start this for free. I put in the chat down below where you can go to Firebase. So I'm going to log into one of my accounts. All right. And then on the right-hand side, it says go to console. So this is where we're going to be setting up our database, that first part. So remember, we were talking about at the first part, the back end, we have to make our application smart. We have to make our app smart. So this is what we got to do. Okay, so now we're in Firebase. And what we're going to do is add a project. This allows us to, again, start with our project and create something. So we say add a project. We're going to say live test 2. So we have that, and we're going to say continue. Now, this allows us to ask, do we want Google Analytics for our Firebase project? I'm going to say no for right now. And then I'm going to say create project. It's going to think about its life, and then it's going to configure all this stuff for us. Now, if you're saying, hey, this is way too many steps for me, what if I get confused? That's why we have a breakdown step by step how to connect Firebase to FlutterFlow right here, step by step. Okay. So we got all this stuff for you, and you can always watch this and, go back and look at this step by step as well. So now that we have Firebase and it's just created our project, we're going to say continue. Our new project is ready. So the next part, what we're going to do is go to the gear icon at the top on the left-hand side. We're going to click it, and we're going to now go to users and permissions. This is going to allow us to add a member. So we have to allow FlutterFlow to edit our database. And by the way, this is the most complicated thing that we're going to be doing. So don't worry, this is why we have it all written down. But once you get past this part, the rest is going to be very easy when we start getting to FlutterFlow, or it will be easier. This is the most technical part, but we got you. That's why we have this step by step for you, so you won't be frustrated and you won't give up. So now that we have the we went to the users and permissions, we need to add FlutterFlow as an editor. So what do we need to do? We need to grab Firebase at FlutterFlow.io. We're going to add their email and add them as an editor. Then we're going to click done, and then add member. So once we've added Firebase as the editor, we have to do a couple more things because we've got to give it more access to our account. So we go to advanced permission settings. We click on this, and this is going to give us go to Google Cloud Platform. The summary is this is a section where you can build a lot of really crazy apps, but we're going to make it super simple, and we're just giving it more access. When I used to wrap blades, I said I had FlutterFlow. Well, that's a good thing that you do. That's one way to get the ladies. I like that. So what we're going to do now is, now that we have Firebase open, we're going to go to this little pencil, which means we're going to edit the permissions, and we're going to give it more access. So we have this written out, what we need to give it access to. We have to give it access for Cloud Function Admin. So I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to say add another role. It says manage role. I'm going to look for this. I found it. So then I add it right here. We're going to add another role. And so the next role that we have to give it is the service account user. Copy and paste. Let's go look for it. Select. Now here, this one we have to scroll down a little bit because there's so many different ones. Hold on. Service account user. So those are the three different roles that we need. We save it. Excuse me. We save it, and then we go from there. So now Firebase now has 3 different roles, and we're good to go for our project. We can refresh, and you can see all the different roles that it has probably right there. So it says editor plus 2 other roles. We're good to go. Okay, so we're going to go back to project overview right here. We're going to use our cheat sheet for a second. And of course, you can purchase this as well. We have this available, or just keep watching the video for free. Now, what we're going to do is now create a database. So we're going to go down to build. So we click build, click the little arrow down, Firebase. And then from here, we're going to build out or create the database that we're going to use for our app. Now, once we click create a database, it's going to ask us, do we want to start a production or a test mode? We're going to do test mode now. And then it asks us where our location is. Pick a location that's close to you. If you're in the United States, pick the US. If you're in Europe, pick Europe. Once you enable that, you'll be good to go. It's going to think about its life, and this is going to set up for the structure of our database. Remember, once we do this once, we're golden. We don't have to ever see this stuff again for this project. Okay, so we have that done. Next up, we've got only 2 more stops in here. We're going to make storage. We're going to open up storage or enable it. This allows us to save all different types of things. Videos, photos, all those things. Think of it like Google Drive, right? So we say get started. We're going to do test mode again. And we're going to have that and say done. Oh man, Jackie, nice to see you. Thank you, thank you. Oh, some people are watching live on Twitter. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Welcome to Build with me.
Okay, so we now have our storage set up. That is great. And now we got one more thing. We're going to create authentication, which means people can sign up using their email, but you can also have them sign up into using their Gmail account, all those things. We're just going to do email, and that's it. That's it for right now. So we click, I did authentication, we click that, and then it allows us to do, set that up for users. So it says set up sign in method. We're going to do email and password. We're going to say enable and save. And now it's enabled. Okay, so we have that. All that is done. And as you're doing this, you have just accomplished the hardest part of creating this app. So give yourself a round of applause. Great job. Great job. Good stuff. Good stuff. Awesome job. Could I create a streaming service with this program? You could. You could. You could do that with the API with Teuto, or honestly, I'd probably just use Teuto in Start. But if you want to have full control, you can use FlutterFlow to create a streaming service as well. Yeah, great question. You definitely can. But I'd probably just use Teuto first and then go from here. But you could definitely do that. Okay, so now that we set up, and great question, by the way. Thanks so much for chiming in and being here tonight. So now that we set up our database, we have to now connect it. We have to connect it. So we go to project overview. We click the little gear icon and we go to project settings again. And this will give us our project ID. And this is what FlutterFlow wants to know as it gets hooked up. So let's go back to FlutterFlow. It's going to say, what is your ID? I'm giving it my ID and I'm going to say connect. It's going to say, do I want to auto-generate config files? I'm going to say yes. We're going to generate files. It's going to take a moment. It's doing all this for me right here. It's thinking about its life. And as we do that, I'm going to drop the link. If anyone wants to have all of these different documents that we talk about today, beginner guide, there's a link down below in the comment section. Remember, this is a supplemental. You can always watch all of these videos for free on YouTube, and it will continue to always be free as well. Enable authentication. We're going to say yes because that's going to allow us to have a login screen. So I'm going to say yes. And then it says automatically add a user collection to Firestore for logged in users. I'm just going to say yes for this one. You can do this later on if you want to. You don't have to say this yes right away. But now everything's set up. Everything is set up on the back end. Okay, so we just created the database for whatever type of app that we want to create. Okay. Now that that is out of the way, we can go and look at the design of what do we want with this app. Now, again, we started from scratch, so we can actually go and add things. Just like if you're building a website, you can just drag and drop things. That's one way. But also, too, I'm going to show you in a moment, you can always just use templates as well. But let's go one step at a time. We're going to talk about what are we looking at on this screen and then how to begin. Okay, so let's look on the left-hand side first. On the left-hand side, we have two different sections, a build section and a connect section. The summary is the build section allows you to visually build out your app, and it's going to give you steps how to do this. The build, number one, is what we're looking at. And then we can add things such as if I want to add text right here, look, I can add hello world if I want to. From there, we're going to go to the widget tree. The widget tree allows us to isolate or see different parts of the app. So now we're actually looking through this and deciding how are we structuring our app. So just imagine it just like building a house. You have to have a foundation. You have to have some kind of infrastructure of the house. Without infrastructure, it's not going to be there for long. Same thing when you're building visually, you need to have different things. You need to have different columns. You need to have rows to structure the app to make sure that it stays sturdy. So you can build it from scratch, or you can use templates or pages of different templates to build it out so you don't have to do it from scratch. It is totally up to you. If you do want to use a template, after you click the UI builder, you can go over here where it says templates, and at any time, it will allow you to access templates that you can build out and do all of those things if you so choose. Okay. So that allows you to build out different sections of the app, headers, drop downs, all of those things that are common in apps if you want to, or you can just build it from scratch. Okay. So it has the templates right there. Next up, we told you we talked about the widget tree, how you're organizing the app. Then we can look at the different pages of the app. So right now we just have a home page. If I want to add a page, I can just click this button where it says new page. And now it's going to give me options. Do I want to create a new page from scratch, or do I want to have a template page that I'm going to use to get started? Okay, so that goes back to the beginning of structuring your app, what you want to do, all of those things. Next up, we also have a storyboard. The storyboard will allow you at a glance to see how your app is created and how it's constructed. We'll look at that for our wine app that we built out and how you can do it too in a little bit. Okay, so we have that structure. So that's all the different build features or the sections for building on this section on the left-hand side. After you pick a page to start building, you look and go across the page to the right. So on the left, you start out with what kind of page you're building, where are you at, what page are you on. Once you go there, you can decide on what page you want, and then your page in the middle will show up in the canvas section. You can also see the format of that page in the middle. And you can zoom in, zoom out, do all of those things. What you're doing on that page, if you want to do any actions, change anything, all the way on the right-hand side of the page, on this side, this is where you're going to be able to edit the app visually. Okay, so you start from left to right. That's the basics of the visual part of FlutterFlow. That's under the build section. Underneath that is the connect section, and this is your database or everything in the backend. This allows you to make your application smart. So on this section where it says connect, you can build out your databases here. We already connected Firebase, so we can do a lot of things here, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. You can also have your data types here. You can have your app state, your APIs, which just means how two systems talk to each other. You can have your different media assets here. You can have custom code. You can have theme settings and your overall settings to your app. So that's the function or structure of how FlutterFlow is set up. Now, if you're overwhelmed by this, no worries. That's why we take it one step at a time. But we're just going with an overview of all the different things that you have available to you for FlutterFlow. Now that we've seen the basics of this, it's important to go back to thinking about yourself and where you want to be, right? So we're going to go from how we set up Firebase. We talked about building visually. We looked left to right. We looked at how you format everything. But now we're going to do a small detour before we look at the app project to go in deeper to think about for yourself, why are you doing this again, right? And this is important because we're going to touch upon this, the 7 steps to make a profitable digital product, including an app. Now, this is really important that we're going through this because if you go into FlutterFlow and you're like, I'm just going to build out an app, I'm going to make a lot of money, that's what everyone else is thinking. So you have to first think about, how are you going to be different? How are you going to increase the chances of you being successful? And these are the 7 steps. Number 1, you have to find one customer. You have to think about, who are you serving? Are you building an app for yourself? Or are you building it for an audience? Then you need to find out their pain points, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to build an app and I know people will want that. You have to think about one feature, one thing that you're doing with the app. What's going on there? What are the pain points? What are they looking for? What apps are they using right now? Why would they use your app? Now, these are painful questions sometimes. A lot of people are like, I don't want to think about this. There's no point of wasting your time building an app without asking yourself these questions to make sure that you're going to be effective and be able to move quickly building your app. So, what are those pain points that you're going to solve? Why are they going to use yours? Is there nothing in the market that is available, or are you going to make it better than what's on the market? Explain it. How much do people need to, how much do they need it? How much do they need to solve this problem? Is it a painkiller or a vitamin? Well, that just means, is your app going to change their life and they're going to love it and they're going to rave about it? Or is it going to be a vitamin? It's just nice to have, but they're going to delete your app in a month. They don't really see the need for it. You want to be that painkiller. You don't want to be a vitamin. And ask how would this change their life? So if you create this app for them, how would this change their life? After all those things, it's important to ask them to charge for it. I'm a huge fan of, as you're building out this app, before you even get started, ask them, would you be willing to pay for it? How much would you pay for this app if I build it? And if someone says, I'd pay $25 or $5, ask them for their Cash App or something, or PayPal link, and see if they're bluffing. Check if, hey, I'm going to build this. Hey, we're pre-ordering, it's $25. If they're not even willing to put up the money and all those things, you need to dig deeper to make sure that this is an app that has staying power before you start building this. Go send them a payment link. Go see if they put their money where their mouth is and see if they're going to pay you. If you can't be doing this, you're not ready to be building out an app, because we're all about you building profitable apps and moving in the right direction and not theories. If you do not do this, we see this all the time with our clients and our students. They spend way too much time, money, and energy with unproven ideas and unproven apps that flop. So this is very hard to go out there and ask people these questions. But the sooner you do this, the better equipped you're going to be to start building your app. So let's go into an example of the app project that we're going to be building and showing you how to build. And this is actually an app that one of my friends, shout out to Edmund, that needs for his for an upcoming event that is going to be profitable. So we already have validation, and now they need to go now build the app. So we're going to break down how we're building out the app, how we got the inspiration, how we do it, and then you're going to have all the same resources to do it the same. So the wine app. The goal of the app is finding specific wine options. It's going to be at I believe a wine fair or something like that. I don't know if a wine fair is the right word, but anyway, it's going to be at an event where people are walking around and they need to select wines that they like to have, to select that what their favorites are, so they can go and buy it, which means that's how it's going to be profitable, probably how many sales they make of the wine or selling the wine. So we look at the goal, finding specific wine options and adding them to a list of favorites. Very basic app. They need to have it customized, have it their own branding, all those things. Now, what are we going to be using? We're going to be showing you an example of the breakdown in a moment. But if you look at this, we just did the workflow of what we need to have an app and how we did it. So if we're looking at this, the app needs to have 4 distinct pages. We need to have a login or sign up page. We need to have a page where all of the wine is displayed, so they can see all the wine, see the names of them, probably see pictures most likely. Click on the wine so they can see a detailed page to know more about the wine, what it pairs with, and all those things. And then we're going to also need to have a way for them to favorite it and have another page to show all their favorites of their wine. That's what we got to do. So it's 4 pages. And so now we've broken this up. So I used Market Plan to just map it out, what we need to do. Now we broke out what pages or screens are needed. So we need a home page to show off options of the wine. Then we need a details of wine page, so the description of the wine and all that kind of stuff. Then we need a sign up and a login page. We're going to combine those. So it's going to be one page, toggles. And then we're going to have a favorites page, so the user's favorites of all their different wine That's a breakdown. So now that we have the breakdown, we know how many pages we need to build in our app. The next part is we're looking at the actions. What do we need to do? We need to have the user favoriting specific wines, having the favorite wines showing in their favorite section. And this was additional login and sign up pages to sign up to new users. I added that, but to do the first rendition, the MVP, the minimal viable product, do we need a login and sign in page? Not really, but we want to get new people and start being able to build our email list. So we're going to have a login page as well. Okay, so now we have this. Okay, let me move this. So now we have a breakdown of everything that we're going to be doing, right? And so this is part of the beginner's guide. And by the way, if people have purchased this in the past, this is a brand new section. I added 2 new pages, so you get all of the new changes and all the updates and everything like that. So if you're watching and you're already a past customer, you get all these updates for free. So we just broke this down. We looked at the key concepts of how to build an app. We're looking at how to build an app project. We just did this. Now the next question is, like, if we're starting for here, how can we go for inspiration? How do we know how to start? Well, what I did was I just Googled this, and I'll show you the exact phrase that I use. Let me do this. I Googled how to create action favorite FlutterFlow, and this showed me a project that you could be doing. And this allows you to do everything basic of what I just said. Remember, I said I need an app where I can see a list of wines, see details about wine, favorite the wine, and that would be it. So what we found right here, now some people are like, this is about cats, Doc. This is nothing what I asked for. Well, as we look at this, 2-factor authentication, we'll talk about that. That's not a problem. We can talk about that. So as we look at this, this is the breakdown of how we're looking at this, right? So what we're going to do to build out this wine, instead of cat names, that will be different types of wine. Instead of best suited for what kind of cat it's going to be or all that kind of stuff, it's going to see best wine to pair with. And then we're going to use the same exact format for favoriting. We're going to use the same mechanics. Okay. So to follow along, we're using this breakdown right here. And I'm going to put this in the comment section down below. Okay. So this is what we're going to be looking at. So Diesel are saying 2-factor authentication, please. So let me ask you this, Diesel, are you building something in FlutterFlow right now and you're having trouble with 2-factor authentication? Let me know. Okay. So we're going to be building out this this breakdown right here. And also too, if you're looking for authentication, all those things, all I did was Googled it and I have this. So if you're having trouble with authentication, or tell me more if you want to know how to do it, if you're trying to look at doing Google sign-ins, all those things, let me know. Okay, so let's first work on the cat project, and then we'll talk about authentication and all those kind of things. Okay, let me bring this up. Okay, so if you look at this, I already did I'll just show you too the ending result. So what we have is authentication page. We have a login page where they can sign in or sign up. And what we did was just email address, but you can also, again, we'll show it in a little bit with Firebase. You'll be able to do that. And then what we needed was, this was the storyboard page. So you can see how the app is designed and connected. So we have 4 screens here. And we have a homepage, very simple. Again, wine app, wine list, the details page of what the wine is paired with, and then we had to have the favoriting, or the favorite, right? Favorite of the wine. So and now you might say, well, this is really basic. It doesn't even look good, Doc. The first part is when you're building any app out is first building out the mechanics and making sure you don't have an error and it runs. Then you can go back and change the UI UX. That's the main thing. A lot of people put too much time in the design. When the app doesn't work, you have all these errors and you have to go back and correct it. Make sure that the mechanics work of your app, then go with the design. Let me know if that makes sense in the chat. Okay, so so we'll look at the run version after we break this down as well. If anyone wants to see it, I can let you know. But okay, so we already set up our Firebase, which means we already created that, and that's good. Okay, let's go back. Let me bring everything back, what we need, moving pages around. Firebase, documentation for cats, that's what we're going to be using. Move this over here. Okay. So the first thing is, if we're going to be creating an app just like this, we already have the instructions of what we're going to be doing broken down into these 10 steps. 10 steps, that's all we're going to need. So let's look at the review. We need to create a new project, prepare Firebase, build a page, display the information, add a details page, add a favorites page. Then we build the interactivity, so navigating to one page or another, changing the app colors, we run the app, and then we test the app. So we break this down into 10 steps. Now, the beauty of this is we already created a new project. Remember, we did that at the beginning. So we went here, we created a new project, we named it and everything like that. Then afterwards, remember, we already prepared the Firebase data. So now we've already built out the database. That's great. So we've already done all the heavy lifting. Now we need to build out a page. So we're going to build out a page, the cat's name listing page. Okay, so we're going to drop down. That's on chapter 3 or point 3. Let's go a little bit here. Okay, build a page. So there's a couple different things that we have here. Number one, we have the GIF that will show us step by step how to do it. I find if I read this, I get really bored. So what I did was I just recorded the videos and then went step by step with this. Okay. And that's why you're watching this video too, because maybe reading this is just really boring. So we're going to look how we can do this ourselves. Okay. So what we did was we have this page. We have a home page here. We already have it selected right here. Okay. And remember here, this is where we're talking about you're going to be building the scaffolding. You're going to be building the structure of your house. So we have the column built here. If we click this little button, it's going to give us an option to add a widget or build something along with that. So it says add a child. So you were just building something that's associated with it, right? So we have the row that we can be doing, or also we have the display, right? So right here, as we're looking at it, we're going to see what it has. Hold on, I'm moving too fast. We'll say column layout elements. So we need a list view, and then we need a row. So we go over here, we click list. You see how list view, boom, we've got list right here. I'm going to delete this text right here. So we have a list view, we click it again, and then we have row. We add a row right here, and then we're going to click it one more time, and we're going to add some text right here. So it says hello world. Now that we have what we're looking for in the middle, let's zoom in for a moment so you can see all this, right? We have hello world. Now that we have it on the page, we're going to go across and we're going to add some things. In the middle, we see what it is. To design it, to make it change a little bit on this side, we can change what it's going to be. So we have hello world here, looks pretty, all of those things. We can change it from hello world to I like pie, right? You can change whatever you want. I like pie, so I'm going to change it. So I have the text that I'm building right here, but then I can change how big the actual text is. So I have it where it's medium body. Let's make this a headline large. Now we have I like pie, right? So this allows us to see as we're changing things and going across the page, we can be designing what we want for this app, right? So as we go step by step through this, remember, that's why we have all these other videos. We already went through it, but we're giving you a guide of how to look through this. You're taking the time to break down every single section, right? So we just made a page. We went to the widget tree. We added the layout, the list view. We added a row. We added the alignment. Oh, we added the text. We need to do alignment. So once we have that, we can go here. We can change the padding if we wanted to. And all of those things. We're going to make this locked. We can change the padding if we want. We can do whatever we want visually, right? We can change this out. Let me know if this makes sense. So we're going from left to right to build out these pages. Okay. So that was an example of how we're going to go and we're reading the documentation as we're looking at each page. Okay. So let's go back and we're going to go to the Wine app. And if we look at our pages, let's zoom in. That's what we did on our home page, details page, our favorites page, and our authentication page, right? So if we go a little bit deeper, you can see we have a list view, we have a row, we have text right here. And now we're going to add hearts and we're going to be able to go through this. Let me know if this makes sense, okay? So I'm going to take questions one moment, but again, we're going step by step. And the beauty of this is what I did. I just recorded all of these GIFs so I could just watch it in real time, okay? Watch it and then pause it to see what's going on. So we're going step by step. Let me read some questions and then we'll continue with building this cat app, which we turned into a wine app. We'll talk about it. So let's go through a couple questions. Diesler is talking about, I want a QR code poster in real life to take customer to login where they have to verify a phone is at a poster's location before login. Imagine a QR code ticket booth. Okay. And then I want to prevent people not to have a QR code poster's location from being able to have an opportunity to log in. Okay. So the first question is, what are they using right now? Like where are we at? But if you're going to be, I want a QR code poster in real life to take a customer to log in. So they're going to go to find a poster in real life. They're going to do the QR code. And before they're allowed to be in the app, that's how they're finding the physical location. So it's almost like not a hide and seek. It's almost like, it's like a treasure map. Like, so they have to first find the physical location of where the QR code is, and that gives them access to the app. Let me know if that makes sense. Am I on the right track? If that's the case, you need the app. So they need to read the, okay, so yes. Okay, so they need to do the QR code. QR code reader. So the question is, are you using FlutterFlow right now? That's the first thing. That's the thing. Now, like I said earlier too, if you're going to go out and do all these things with QR codes, I would really highly make sure that you're getting paid, or this is something that has already, like, you're already going to be making money off of this. The reason behind it is I want to make sure that the mechanics, and this is what you're looking for, is going in the right direction, and this will be good for you. Okay, so just like I said, to do this, I just Googled it. So you can scan the barcode or QR code. Only testing. Okay, so the simple answer is I'm gonna send you this link, and you can continue to research. But it is possible. I would really push on, if you do an idea like this, that this is making you money, or that this is a problem to be solved and this is the right mechanics. But if you want to just test it out for yourself and you're doing this as your own personal project, Google and find this. But FlutterFlow is allowed. You can do that. The next one is the mechanics of, once they do that, they sign in and all those things. But yeah, I think this is going to help. Not a problem. Let me know if that makes sense. Yeah, they break down step by step what you need. Yeah, great question though. Really detailed. I love it. But as you're talking about it, that's the same thing. When I'm troubleshooting and I need something done with FlutterFlow to see if it's possible, I just Google it with those types of word choice, see if it's possible, and go from there. For authentication, same exact thing. I just did 2FA, two-factor authentication, and I did Firebase, and then going from there. Great question. And that's all the things that you can be doing right here. Not a problem. Thank you so much for being here in the audience and supporting supporting the stream. Great questions. Okay, so we're going back. We're going back. Let me move this stuff out. Pop up. Okay, back to cats. Back to cats. Okay, so to build out that page, we're on 3. We built out the page. We built out the rows, the text. How do we add the widgets? Great question. So what we're doing is once we're here and we need to add any kind of element, we can click where it says row and it says add a child element, which means something associated with it. And then here we can add whatever we want. So say, for instance, we want a favorite. We can't find it. What's the exact word that they wanted us to use? Oh, a toggle con. I don't like using that word, but okay. Okay, so you see right here, then we can do a toggle con, which will then allow us to either have a check mark or be able to have a switch, whatever we want. Now, this allows us to, again, to have something go on and off. So to see an example of this in practice, I have way too many pages open. Okay, so you see this one, this is our wine list. And you see how when we're clicking on the heart, it's coming up and down. So this is when we're doing the wine app. Remember, let's just do the format of this. This is what it looks like. We're building this out. We built out a list. So it's grabbing wine, different types of wine, and it's displaying the different types of wine here. I can look at what it's best paired with. I have the name of the wine right here at the top. I can favorite it. And then if I click the other icon at the top, the other heart, it keeps it my favorites right there. So again, we're building out the format of when we have a toggle con right here. I just don't like that word. When we have this heart that we're using, it can turn on and off. And so when we add this right here, we added the toggle. On the right-hand side, now we can make changes to this exact toggle. So you see right here where it says favorite right here, then we say when it's on off, we can have it when it actually has a picture. So when we click on it, it will be a red heart. When we don't have it, it will be just a hollow heart. You can change any of the different images or icons that you want, and it will change it for whatever we want. Okay, so again, if we look at this, on off. On off. Okay, so now that we have that broken down, we have the mechanics of that. We can see that it worked for our wine app. We added the icon button. And then again, it's showing us step by step as we add a row, we're changing out the padding, the alignment, changing the axis. Then we're adding the text. We're changing the text to be a header 1, or we set a large header. Then we're looking for the widget, toggle. Then we add the toggle. From there, we're doing the checkbox. We're changing the checkbox to a favorite. We're doing a heart. The heart, then we're going to change the icon from it to be on off, basically, turning it on off. So we're having a full heart, denoting that we hearted something, or it's just hollow. It's the outline of the heart from there. And we can display the value right there. So that is how we create that function for our page. And again, we see that we just did this in practice, and we see that what it looks like on the end. Now it says cat names. We just substitute it for wine. Remember, we're just building out the format for the wine app. Okay, so now that we have that, we displayed the name on the page. The next part is we got to query, or we got to connect the data. We got to connect the data together. So remember, this allows us to have a database connected. We already had a database here. If you look at wine names, which is just like cat names, we can manage the content by going to connect. We say manage content here. Go over here. And then we can see users, but we can also see it right here. Right? So this allows us to see the names of the types of wine, what it pairs with, and then if this is a favorited wine or not. And then also too, we have information about the user and what they're doing. Okay. So now that we have that, we go back. This is where we're going to query a collection, which means we're just going to display the list of different items. In this example, it's cats, but we're going to do wine. So this is where we're going to be going step by step by first going to the list view on the widget tree. We're doing a backend query, which means we're telling the app what we need it to do. So let's go back. You see we're on list view in the toggle section here. As we have list view, this allows us to have a connection right here. Now, if you look at this right here, it says backend query. That's where we can connect it. We connected wine names, lists of documents, and then we saved it. And that's why all the names are right here. The reason they're not real names until you go here is it's just giving you the format of what it's going to populate. Until you run the app, you're not going to see all the names that is really in the database. But where you see name, it's going to be the name of the wine right here. When we go to the other page, it's going to then have a placeholder of the descriptions or the details of the wine. So right there is pairs with. That's what we have of more details with the wine. Okay, so we have homepage right there. Let me exit that one over here. Okay. So if we look at this is where we're clicking on it. Now, this is an example of what they have the GIF. The only thing is when you have the query and add it, some of the buttons have changed position. That's why I just showed you where that is now. It's very similar. Just keep in mind, it's going to just be slightly different than some of the step-by-steps that you see in FlutterFlow documentation, but it's the same workflow. It just might move just slightly, just like Google Cloud Platform. Okay, so we have that. And it's going to ask you, do you want to add this? And you say, okay. So we did that over here. We added everything. Remember, we did homepage, we did description or the widget tree. We did list view. We went to the backend query, and that allows us to add that. Now, if you look at this over here, this also allows us to look at the properties of that section, that widget. Also allows us to see the actions. Allows us to see the backend query. So does it connect to the backend? Animations, we can add animations based on what we want. Maybe we want it to fade or do different actions. We can add that. And then also too, we can document different things here. So this is a comment in your code. This is perfect if you're working with a team and you need to have them know more context if you're going to sell your app or you're going to have another team work on your app as well. It's great to have that. Okay. So we broke that down. Okay. So we got that. We went to display data on the text widget. This is outlining how you're going to actually look and go step by step into the different variables of your app. So you see where it says hello world, but we want it to say name. That's where you're clicking the text right here. And the icon to change the type and to change the options right here is right here. If you look in the documentation, they're going to say that there's set from variable. In the new version, there is not a button that says that. It is going to be this tiny, tiny little setting icon next to text that you click right here. And then it's going to give you all of those things. Okay. So we change that out. And that is how we make sure that basically it's dynamic. The names are going to be dynamic. They're going to change based on your database. So after you create one page, you're going to rinse and repeat and do the same thing on the details page and the favorites page. Because once you can do it on the home page, now you're just going to be doing a very similar fashion on the favorites page and the details page. The only difference is you're going to have, when we come to actions, they're going to go to different places. Also, too, if you look at it, this is not in their cat version, but I made a sign up page, so sign in page for the app, so you can start collecting information. And what I did from there was I just added a new page. I went to an auth page and I picked the authentication solo 1 theme and then just made changes from there. I cut out the authentication where you could use Gmail and a bunch of other things. That's just because I didn't want to go through the hassle of building out all of the different authentication um, options in Firebase, because there's a lot, but you can have people log in with Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, Yahoo. I don't know why anyone would use Yahoo, but anyway, you can go, the list goes on and on, but that is what you can be doing. Okay, so we went through adding the pages. We did that. Next, we're going to be looking at adding the parameters. Okay, so the parameters, let's go into what this means. Okay, when a user, let's zoom in and move my face out of the way. Okay, this is important because, okay. Yeah. So it says when a user taps on a name, a new page, i.e., the details page, will open. In this step, you'll need to add the details page and build the UI to display the data. So basically, we've got to tell the app what to do once we click the buttons. We'll also add the parameter on this page to receive that data from the previous page. Later, you'll use the parameter to display the actual data. By the way, I was listening to many people that pronounce parameter as parameter, and then I kept using parameter, and then people were trying to correct me all the time on this. Yes, it just depends on where you're from. Can you do a video just on authentications? I could, but what I would probably do is just look up different ones that have done authentication already. Have you looked at different ones that have done authentication for FlutterFlow? That would be my next thing. The reason behind it is there are so many resources out there, and don't reinvent the wheel usually. There's something where I think, yeah, so I just Googled it. Depends on, so I'd ask, have you watched these videos before? Because people have already done authentication. It just depends on what the exact type that you need. Shout out to Paul No Code too. I would check out these first. I can send a link. No one's done a complete authentication video. Tell me more. Tell me more. The reason behind it is, like, you're talking about two-factor authentication, like from beginning to end. What are they missing? I would need more details, because their authentication, I looked through it today to do one. It's pretty complete, but let me know what is it missing. And then we can kind of, work backwards on that. I'll do a video if there's something that is not complete. Wall all authentications done. Tell me more. I don't know what that means. Tell me more, please. Okay. Okay, so we did that one. Build UI, the UI, we did that one. Talk about adding. Oh, okay. Adding parameters right here. They just do one type per video. So you're saying authentication of all of them all together? Is that what you're asking? Like doing all the authentication? Like, say, for instance, let me make sure if I'm understanding this. You're asking for all the authentication, like how to do all of the providers of authentication for your app? Okay. Let's see. So you want a video on Apple, Google, and the phone? If there, I might not be the best person to do it, actually. Tell you the truth. I probably have guessed why people haven't done a full video is because it's a lot of editing because there's going to be a lot of sensitive information. So I would assume that's why they haven't done it. If there's a need on the channel, and like the paying members want to do it, I might have to drink some scotch to do it because I can already see like I just would not feel like doing it. But if we have the community that wants to do it, I might do it. But this is, I mean, that's going to be extensive. That's going to be extensive. I would have to have a good reason why. And I would probably put it this way, right? The reason to do all the authentication, most likely their audience would only be using 3 to 4 authentications that make sense for their audience. So to have options to sign into all these wouldn't make a lot of sense to do it. Well, email me. I always say money talks. If you're interested and you want to really see it, and we'll all I'll have to crowdsource this because that's a lot of work. And I would say a lot of people have done a lot of work that's already like set the groundwork that I would just probably, okay, so the cheap version I would do is just look at every single one of how they did it, and it's going to be a repeatable thing. I have to think about if I would actually spend the time doing it, but if we crowdsource it and we make enough money, I would do it. But that's a very tall task to have all of the providers just to do that. And it's not a coincidence that a lot of times when you see authentication videos, the viewership is so low because it's so technical. Not a lot of people actually do it. The drop off is insane when you do those kind of videos. So I'm assuming that's why a lot of people don't like deep dive in authentications. But we'll take a look. Take a look. And thank you so much for supporting and being here and watching the stream and liking it. Really appreciate it. But shoot me an email and we'll talk about it. I'll see what's going on and what's up from there. Okay. So we have and by the way, if people want to see like in real time, this is one thing too. One of the things that you can see, even when we're working on more developing things, if you're doing an app or any kind of content, just like how you saw it live, when I'm trying to validate if I'm going to do certain different apps or different things, and it's something that I'm like, this doesn't hit like the general population, but does it make sense financially? I'll just tell people, I'm like, hey, if you're interested in it and you want to pay it, I'll just drop the link. Send me a message right now. We'll do a quote and we'll see if it's worth my time, right? And those are the things, that's what I'm trying to really say. When you're building out your app, you need to look through the fundamentals when you're creating your app to see if it's worth your time and energy. You want to make sure that as you're designing the app that works for you, you're systematically approaching the same thing. Okay, so you can see it in real time. I don't just say it. I live by the same exact principles I tell all my students and clients. Okay, so let's take a look at the parameter. So what you're doing is you go to the app. We're going to look at the home page. Once we go to the home page, we're going to go to, let's see, what does it say here? Go back. Go to the page name. We're going to details page, the name, and then we're going to the edit. Okay. So we go to details page. Details. We go to the widget tree. We go to text. We go to text. And then we have the parameter right here. So the parameter is name details. So this is going to get the document. So we're getting the information and it's going to display the name. And so it's going to display the wine name. So if you look at this, it says name and just pairs with. If we look at the finished version, you see how the name of the wine goes to the next page and then pairs with the information in our database now tells us about that wine. So the parameter will now allow us to map out the details or what the app is going to be doing as we're connecting everything, right? So if we looked at this, remember, we went to the text, we changed the text, we looked at the parameter, what we needed to do, and then we changed that information. We went to text, the box for the parameters, we mapped it out. Now, this is different than the actions. The actions is when we're clicking on something, what do we want it to do? If we go to the action flow right here, we're telling it when you tap that icon at the top, when you're tapping the text, we want it to go back to the home page. Does that do it? When we say that, we click on the type of wine. When we click on that, it goes back to the home page. So we're mapping it out of the parameters, what it's going to autofill, but then we're also explaining in the app what actions must they do as well. Okay, let me know if that makes sense. So let's look at a high level real quick. We went through building out the database. We built out the pages. Then we built out the parameters or how the different pages are going to react or dynamically change. Then we talk about navigation or we change the actions. Now the actions, again, when we go back to the app, we can look at any part of the app, look at the home page. We click on the home page. Then on the right side of the page, you see where it says the properties. We change out the actions. Now we can add an action. We can open the actions and see what's going on. If we look at it, the home page is pretty much just chilling because for this simple app, everything's linking back out to the home page. But if we wanted a page to connect or to do something, let's look at our authentication page. We're having people either sign in or sign up for the app. From there, we're going to look at the actions. Let's look at the open actions section. Oh, let's go here. We've got to go to the widget tree and tell it to let us know what the actions and what button's doing. So when they click the login or sign in button, then we can look at the actions that are taken. So here, the first action is authentication. We're going to get their email address for their login and passwords. And then afterwards, it's going to log them in and it's going to navigate them to the home page. So if you look at the actions, we can add a lot of different things to our actions. We can add multi-steps here. We can also change what's going to happen based on a tap, on a double tap, or a long press. So based on the type of actions that we want, we might have quick double tap do different things than a hold button or something like that. We can design all of those things with FlutterFlow right there. And that gives us the outline of all of the different actions. So we looked at designing all the pages, adding the parameters, adding the different interactivity, so how the app works, how to change the app colors. How can we do that? We can go to the app, and from there, at the bottom, we can go to theme settings. From there, we can look at the design systems based on what are we doing, mobile all the way to desktop. The loading indicators, we can have that. We can change the colors of the app. We can change the typography and the icons and the theme widgets if we want to. So create theme widgets for your project. When you update the theme widget, all instances of the widgets that you use in this theme will be updated for styling. That's really good. So this allows us to customize our app even more. We can change the typography. We can do all the things that match our branding and make sure that everything that we do can be seamless when we create this. Next, if we look at the settings here, we can change out the app details, the app assets, the nav bar and app bar, and go from there. So we just had it as a wine shelf right there for what we have. Let's go back here. Also too, again, the storyboard, we can bring it out. And this tells us how the app is going to work and understand from the authentication page to the home page to the details page and favorites, how it's going to work and what buttons happen when we click different things, what is going on, and it highlights what's happening. So it allows us to understand it at a storyboard mode. Okay, so we have that. We showed how to change app colors, how to run the instant and reload your app. Okay, so as we're doing this and we want to test out our app, we can click this little button where it's the lightning bolt. We can run the mode and we can share it. or we can also do a test mode for faster iterations. Here it allows us to test out what our app looks like, and we've been doing that so you can see what the basics look like at that. But say, for instance, I updated something. Let's just update something real quick. So I'm going to go to homepage. I go to, I can just say wine app homepage. Maybe I want that. We changed the name right here. We're going to run it. So it's going to take us over here. It's going to think about its life. So we're building an app right here. We're going to be able to see it. It's also giving me a little bit of tips right here. If I get bored, how to make a hero animation in 60 seconds, all of those things. But that allows us to do this. So as we are waiting for this, remember, you can take a look at this. If you want to see the FlutterFlow for beginners, there's a link down below. If you want more information, or if you want someone to build your app and you don't want to take the time, but you're building a business and you see the potential, but you want someone else to build it, make sure you go to Docs Connections. We find a expert that builds your app or does tutoring for you as well. So if you're interested in that, fill out Docs Connections, and we'll connect you with an expert shortly, less than like 72 hours. Okay. Back from the commercial break. We're almost done. And by the way, we do this every single week. So if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you like and subscribe. We do a lot with FlutterFlow, but we talk about Adalo. We talk about pretty much any no-code app, as well as AI and just emerging tech for people to be more independent and to use technology to grow their online business. So if you're interested in that, or if you want different ideas, let us know. Just like we released Docs Help Desk, which is based off of custom chat GPT. So now you can get all of the answers that I have in my docs, so you don't have to search for it. And if you don't have time waiting for an answer, you get access to that as well. All right, so we're finishing this up right now. This is looking good. Let's see right here. Okay, cool. So you saw it for a second. It loaded the homepage, but I didn't do a sign out button yet. But basically, because I already tested it, I'm signed in. That's why it's not showing that. But as we can see right here, Wine App homepage, changed it right here. We have all this information about it. We can favorite it. We can go to favorites, and then we see our favorites are already highlighted there. We can take off the favorites, and then when we go to favorites, they're gone. So the mechanics of everything that we just did has been completed from the details here. So we ran your app, testing your app to make sure it worked and everything, and we didn't get any errors. Now, if we have any errors, it won't allow us to run it, and we might have to just test it out or do something. But common problems that we see is usually you might have to deploy or redeploy your database for it to sync with Firestore or Firebase. And then you just go here and you can just deploy it again. And that's usually a lot of the errors that you get. But remember, this little bug right here will tell you if there's an error or a warning and why your app cannot run as designed yet. So if you get no red, that means that you can run your app and then go from there. So that's the basic process of how we can be running and building our own app. As you can see right here, we just took a concept of a cat app for favoriting, and then we changed it out for wine. And this is just the beginning. We also left in the database where we could be adding on to this. We could add pictures to the wine or something like this. So we have wine image right here or wine description as well. We can add that in and redeploy it if we wanted to have even more details for our wine app and going from there. So remember, for your creation, what you're building out with your style for your app, think about the exact one function that you want to create for your app. What do you want to do? Is it profitable? Is it worth your time or energy? Or if it's a side hustle or something you're interested in, take the time to go into the FlutterFlow community and ask your questions and go there. But when we're looking at creating profitable online side hustles and using apps like FlutterFlow, go through the process of building out meaningful applications for you to make money and for you to scale your business. If you like these kind of videos, make sure that you like and subscribe. Let us know in the comment section what you're working on, and we'll see you in the next video. Again, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night, and thank you for your support. Bye, everybody.